Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving straight into something I know so many of us struggle with: helping kids develop better time management skills, and more importantly, helping them actually internalize the pace of their daily tasks. Look, if you've ever found yourself pulling your hair out because putting on a single pair of shoes has somehow, miraculously taken 45 minutes, yeah, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the mechanics of why time is such a massive hurdle for kids and how a really simple shift in perspective, plus the right tools, can completely transform your daily routines. So let's just kick things off with a question that literally any caregiver or educator knows all too well. Why on earth is it that kids just cannot sense a quarter of an hour slipping away? I mean, you tell a child, hey, you've got 15 minutes left to play or 15 minutes to finish your breakfast, and to them, that could be an eternity or it could be a single second. The time just completely evaporates. See, we adults often expect kids to manage time just like we do, but they actually lack that internal physiological rhythm that alerts them to the passing of minutes. And honestly, we really need to understand why this block exists before we can even try to fix it. Which brings us right to section 1. Time is abstract, which is really the core of our problem here. To truly grasp this huge disconnect in how adults and kids experience passing time, we have to talk about abstract time versus concrete time. It's like we're speaking two totally different languages. For us adults, 15 minutes is a perfectly understood, measurable reality. But for a child, it's completely invisible. It's totally abstract. You can't hold a minute in your hand, you can't touch it or point to it in the air, and because it's invisible, it's incredibly hard to feel. So if they can't feel the time passing in their own minds, well, we have to find a way to shift it into something concrete. We literally have to put the time right in front of their eyes. And that leads perfectly into section 2, making time concrete, which is where we find our solution. Okay, so enter the perfect tool to bridge this cognitive gap, the Pi Timer. If you aren't familiar, a Pi Timer is basically a color-coded visual tool that allows students to physically observe the remaining minutes of whatever activity they're doing. And let me tell you, this is an absolute game changer. Why? Because it lets children rely on their strongest sense for gathering information, their sight, instead of relying on an internal clock that just hasn't fully developed yet. By taking that frustrating invisibility out of time management, the Pi Timer makes the whole concept physical. It finally gives time a shape, a color, and a real physical presence in the room. Just think about how this actually works in practice. As that dial moves, the genius of it becomes so obvious. Like we said, you can't feel 15 minutes, but you can physically watch that colored slice getting smaller and smaller as time slips away. It's almost like a visual heartbeat. As the mechanism turns, this big abstract idea of a deadline turns into a concrete shrinking slice of color. It creates a physical representation of urgency, and the best part is that a child can process it instantly. Zero mental math required. Let's move along to section 3, the 5-minute warning, to look at the mechanics behind this. Having the timer is great, but how we use it to signal transitions is where the real behavioral magic happens. And the golden number here? It's 5. The absolute pivotal transition moment happens exactly at the 5-minute mark. This is when the Pi Timer shifts its visual feedback into a warning zone. 5 minutes is just brilliant because it's short enough to create a sense of immediate action, but it's long enough to prevent total panic. It is basically the perfect buffer zone. The really crucial point here is that this 5-minute warning acts as a totally unmissable signal that it is time to start finishing up. It's their cue to begin wrapping the activity up before that final deadline hits. And definitely notice the phrasing we're using there, start finishing up. We are absolutely not demanding that they drop everything instantly, which, as we all know, usually just leads to massive tantrums or pushback. Instead, that visual shift on the timer naturally communicates that the environment is changing, which prompts the child to actually start pacing their own conclusion to whatever they're doing. Now let's jump into section 4, Gamifying Productivity, to see this application in action. Knowing the mechanics is awesome, but applying them through a structured challenge is where this really comes to life. We want to take this whole idea of concrete time and make it super motivating for them. So enter the Beat the Buzzer challenge. Look at how simple yet totally effective these 3 steps are. Step 1, you set the visual timer for a specific chunk of time, let's say 10 minutes to clean up toys. Step 2, their goal is to finish cleaning before that buzzer goes off, and they use the shrinking color slice to pace themselves. Step 3, if they beat the clock, they earn a star or whatever form of positive reinforcement works for your kid. This whole activity is just phenomenal because it takes a totally mundane, boring chore and reframes it into an exciting race against a visible, predictable opponent. And that brings us to our final part, section 5, internalizing pace. What's the big takeaway here? Adopting this really simple, color-coded strategy goes so much further than just getting a playroom cleaned up that one time. Ultimately, using these visual cues helps kids actually internalize the pace of their daily tasks. By repeatedly seeing what 10 or 15 minutes looks like, their brains eventually begin to naturally feel it. Plus, it dramatically increases their focus, because that visual reminder of the deadline is always right there, constantly pulling their attention back to the task at hand. It encourages them to work faster, be way more efficient, and honestly, the best part is that it transforms time management from a stressful, nagging chore into a really fun, engaging visual game. You are literally equipping them with a life skill all just by changing how they look at time. So, knowing how easily a simple pie timer can turn the invisible and abstract into something completely concrete and manageable, I want to leave you with a final thought to apply to your day right away. Take a look at your daily routine. What chore will you turn into a game today? Seriously, challenge yourself to introduce a visual timer, set up that 5-minute warning, and just watch how quickly the whole dynamic changes. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to explore more fascinating concepts with you next time.